Hey everyone, what's up? It's your girl Amanda, and today, as you can tell by the title, I will be watching the inside scoop on OceanGate. Now there's a lot more information that has come across since the last time we talked about it, so I'm going to jump right into this video.
Implosion. The unthinkable became all too real this past week as we learned of the fate of undersea explorer Stockton Rush's Titan submersible on its way to the Atlantic grave of the Titanic. The questions, the second-guessing, David Pogue tells us, are likely to continue for a long time to come.
Last summer, a company called OceanGate invited Sunday Morning to join an expedition to the Titanic. At the time, I was thrilled.
Next time I come out of this doorway, I'll either be a changed man forever or cursing the bad weather.
As the whole world knows now, OceanGate's business was taking adventure seekers on these Titanic dives
Well, we're sitting on the Titanic. We are on the Titanic.
for $250,000 a ticket on a one-of-a-kind carbon fiber submersible called the Titan.
Carbon fiber is a great material. It's better than titanium. It's better than a lot of other materials.
This is Stockton Rush, the CEO of OceanGate and the designer of the sub. Last Sunday, as he was piloting the sub to the Titanic, it imploded, killing him and his 4 passengers.
We spent 9 days at sea with Rush last summer, and in wake of the tragic news, we thought you might like to see more of what we saw and hear more of what Stockton Rush said.
The Titan wasn't like any previous deep-sea submersible. There was no dashboard, just a touchscreen computer and a single power button.
We only have one button. That's it.
Wait a minute, I've seen submersibles, and they are banks of controls, like cockpit after cockpit.
Exactly. This is to other submersibles
they
what the
never
iPhone was to
imploded.
the BlackBerry.
But many of its components seemed surprisingly cheap. For views outside the sub, he had installed store-bought security cameras. As for the ceiling lights,
I got these from Camper World.
and then there was the steering unit.
Let me guess, 5 below?
We run the whole thing with this game controller.
Come on! So, it seems like a lot of the
It's the fact that
way
they
you
was
made this
laughing,
is by taking
and now,
off-the-shelf
like,
parts
there's
and sort of
people dead
MacGyvering them
behind
together.
this.
Yeah,
Like, what?
pretty much.
Does that not raise anybody's
Like,
eyebrows
that's
in
not
the
a-
industry?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I'm definitely an outlier. There were a lot of rules out there that didn't make engineering
If I
sense to
see
me.
that,
Everyone I
knowing that he's
know
taking
keeps
people
asking me the
down
same question.
underwater, I'm not gonna be
Why
like,
would you get on that
that is
dangerous
crazy.
sub?
Like, no, like I have
Well,
questions.
first of
Why
all,
are you
Stockton
using
Rush had the credentials.
He majored in aerospace engineering at Princeton. He designed and flew his own airplanes. He designed previous submersibles. Second, he was emphatic that the important parts of the Titan were rock solid, like the carbon fiber body for which NASA
that? Like they
served as
thought
a
the
consultant.
Titanic was unsinkable.
There's certain things that you want to be buttoned down, and that's the pressure vessel. Once the pressure vessel is, you're certain it's not going to collapse on everybody, everything else can fail. Your thrusters
Right.
can go, your lights can go, you're still going to be safe.
Your life
Third,
can go.
I was convinced by
Yeah.
an expert, P.H. Nargelet, the veteran deep-sea explorer who also perished in the Titan. Over the years, he'd been to the Titanic more than just about anyone.
How many times have you been?
With the last dive, 37 times.
You've been to the Titanic 37 times?
Yes. I was in charge of one,
What?
2, 3, 4,
Why?
5 sub.
How different is the Titan from those other subs?
Completely different. Most of them, you have a sphere.
Was there never a point when you wondered about the safety of the sub at that depth?
No. 2 or 3 years ago, I have a phone call with Stockton, and he explained to me that he was doing a lot of tests. He showed me the ways they were building the stuff. I say, okay, that's fine. That's fine. I have no problem to dive in the sub.
I was also impressed by the sub's 7 redundant systems for returning to the surface.
These are roll weights. We can actually roll this up and those come off. That gains us some buoyancy to come back to the surface. Okay. These triple weights, we call them, are hydraulically driven.
Expedition manager Kyle Bingham.
Underneath this tray hang these bags. We're right around 35 pounds. and those hang down there. Typical dive will have 8 of them. We can also use our thrusters. We have enough power to thrust back up. And then under this last fairing here, we have our variable ballast tank or soft ballast. It's an air bladder that we use a big 10,000 PSI air tank that's under the tail to fill that up, fill it with air, and then it helps bring us to the surface.
There were even sandbags that detach automatically after about 16 hours, even if everyone inside had passed out. Their connectors would dissolve in seawater.
So you have a backup of a backup of a backup of a backup of a backup.
Correct.
And none of those back then.
Finally, the crew seemed to foster a
I don't
culture of
care.
safety.
If my
There
job
were checklists,
had me do this interview and I
inspections
had to go in
before
there, I'm
and
not
after
going in
every
there. Y'all just don't have to
dive,
fire me, 'cause
and
I'm
a
not
3
going.
strikes
Get
rule.
somebody else to do it.
If 3 things seemed out of the ordinary, no matter how minor, they'd cancel the dive. I learned that the hard way on our own dive.
We're in the water, we're floating.
Woo!
At this point, divers are supposed to detach the sub from its launch platform.
So apparently those floats there came off the platform, and that wasn't supposed to happen.
So we're scrubbing?
Yeah, I think that's the consensus up here.
Copy that.
I never did see the Titanic, and I wasn't unusual. In OceanGate's first 2 summers of Titanic operations, it spent a total of 50 days floating above the shipwreck site. But because of waves, bad weather, and malfunctions, the Titan actually made it to the Titanic only 12 times.
So y'all
But
just
through
gonna
it all,
ignore all of God's
Stockton
signs,
Rush
right? Y'all
defended
just
his
gonna-
unconventional approach.
I mean, anything when you're trying something outside the box, people inside the box think you're nuts. Same thing when Elon Musk was doing SpaceX. Inside the box, everything's scary.
Yeah.
But as early as 2018, there was concern about the Titan's design. A former employee says that when he raised safety concerns, Rush fired him. That same year, a group of submersible engineers urged Rush to seek certification of the Titan by a safety agency. Rush declined, saying that regulation would stifle innovation.
At some point, safety just is pure waste. I mean, if you just want to be safe, don't get out of bed, don't get in your car, don't do anything.
Yeah.
At some point, you're going to take some risk, and it really is a risk-reward question. I said, I think I can do this just as safely by breaking the rules.
So, Captain
Are you
McLaren,
serious?
have you spent much time in submarines?
Are you serious?
David, my total time under the water, divorced from the outside atmosphere, is a little over 5 3/4 years. No kidding. Fact.
Retired U.S. Navy submarine
Facts,
captain
no
Alfred
printer.
McLaren is not impressed by OceanGate's innovations.
I mean, would you fly in an airplane that somebody excitedly told you, well, it's going to be a lot cheaper because we found a new way of attaching the wings?
So basically,
Yeah,
would
right.
I fly
He
Spirit?
theorizes
and
that the
is
Titan
no.
failed not
No.
because it was made of carbon fiber, but because it was made of 3 dissimilar materials: carbon fiber, titanium, and plexiglass for the porthole.
When you have different materials, different molecular structure, they have different coefficients of expansion and compression, and then you make repeated cycles in depth, of course you're going to work that seal loose. And that's why submarines don't run around with any portholes at all, come to think of it. It's a weak point.
I think there's a great, almost surreal irony here, which is Titanic sank because the captain took it full steam into an ice field at night on a moonless night with very poor visibility.
That's not true.
After he had been repeatedly warned by telegram, by Marconigram.
In an interview with Anderson Cooper, filmmaker and veteran Titanic diver James Cameron pointed out a sad parallel between Stockton Rush and the captain of the Titanic.
The arrogance and the hubris that sent that ship to its doom is exactly the same thing that sent those people in that sub to their fate.
The world mourns the loss of Stockton Rush, P.H. Nargeolet, and their 3 passengers, British billionaire Hamish Harding, Pakistani businessman Shahzada Dawood, and his son Suleiman.
Already, there's talk of restrictions and regulations and lawsuits. Will the OceanGate disaster mean fewer people going adventuring? Well, every year people do die skydiving and scuba diving and climbing Mount Everest.
My thing is,
Tragic
why are
every
y'all doing
time,
that?
and
For
yet
what?
people still keep coming. Some people just have that itch. For them,
Scratch
danger
it.
is the point. The risk of dying gives meaning to living. I think Stockton Rush was among them.
I wanted to be sort of the Captain Kirk. I didn't want to be the passenger in the back.
No way.
And I realized that the ocean is the universe. That's where life is.
So, thoughts. First of all, I want to touch back on what the James Cameron guy said, that the captain of Titanic went like full speed ahead into the ice area. That's not what I heard. So I don't know like the technical language for it, but I learned that there were supposed to be 2 men out on Titanic who were supposed to be keeping a lookout for any glaciers or anything that could have possibly hit the ship. So to my knowledge, they weren't paying attention. This is what I've just learned. They weren't paying attention, and basically by the time they warned the captain and the message got to the captain, it was too late. So for him to sit here and say like, oh, you know, he went full speed ahead. Why would the guy go full speed ahead? I feel like they're kind of talking with the narrative here. Again, because I already said this in my previous video, that there was an employee who tried to warn Stockton, and he was basically like, I don't want to hear it, you're fired. So that was strike number 1. Strike number 2, y'all tried this before to go down. You don't think that's a sign? Bruh. And he got like $30 lights to be put inside the submarine so you could see. My guy. And I don't find it funny, like haha funny, but funny as in ironic, how they had all of these safety precautions and all of them failed. Like, that's kind of weird. Like, there were so many warning signs. People are telling y'all, they urge you to get professional certification and all of that stuff, and you still ignored that. You're like, no, don't worry about it. You basically, this Stockton Rush was basically cutting friends off, cutting people off, cutting employees off, because he didn't want to hear them go against his idea. Like, how immature do you have to be? And then to hear that there was a 19-year-old boy who possibly just graduated high school or is getting ready to graduate high school, depending on, you know, where he's from. Like, are you serious? But that is the end of the video. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and I will see y'all in the next video. Peace.